Welcome back to a brand new explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a thrilling cosmic investigation, diving into some of the most ancient source texts known to humanity. We are going to be looking up at the stars, but entirely through the lens of ancient scribes. We're talking about decoding what just might be a massive mathematical blueprint hiding right there in plain sight.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine the night sky above you. Now, don't just picture it as this beautiful, random canvas of twinkling stars. Picture it as a giant, interlocking system of gears, a massive, incredibly precise piece of clockwork. What if the ancient writers who described the end of the age weren't just writing colorful poetry? What if they were actually giving us the literal math to an ancient alarm clock?
The research we are examining today makes a pretty wild but absolutely fascinating argument. It proposes that ancient end times texts actually describe literal cosmic geometry. So we aren't looking at metaphors today. We are looking strictly at how the original text treats this information as physical data, like a strict, observable mathematical blueprint.
Section 1. The Cosmic Alarm Clock, a literal interpretation of celestial texts.
To kick off our investigation, we're completely bypassing modern theories. Instead, the analysis focuses heavily on the actual literal vocabulary preserved in two major ancient works, the Book of Revelation and the ancient Book of Enoch. And to make sure we're getting the raw, unfiltered data, this framework relies heavily on versions of these texts found among the Dead Sea Scrolls and the ones fully preserved in the Ethiopian canon. They are looking for very specific, physical celestial markers. Section 2, Revelation 12, a literal beacon, decoding the great sign. Let's open up what is probably the most famous end times passage dealing with geometric, astronomical layouts. The text reads, "And there appeared a great sign in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pained to be delivered." Now people usually read this as, highly symbolic spiritual poetry. But pay close attention to the specific cosmic markers mentioned here, the sun, the moon, and a crown of stars.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the original Greek word used in the text for sign. It's semeion. When you look at the original linguistic context, this doesn't just mean some vague omen. It explicitly means a signal, a literal mark, or a beacon set in the sky specifically to track an event. The analysis grounds the text entirely in physical, observable geometry.
So how does the math of this text actually work? Well, the investigation breaks it down into a clear sequence. First, the data establishes that the Messiah's literal birth occurred on Sivan 17, according to the ancient Hebrew calendar. Second, the end times geometry in Revelation explicitly uses birthing imagery, right? A woman in labor. Therefore, step 3, this prophetic sign in the sky links backward. It serves as a structural pattern that is locked mathematically to that original Sivan 17 nativity date. Section 3. Enoch's shifting planetary gears, the alteration of the lights in 1 Enoch 80. This structural focus, it just completely changes how you read these ancient manuscripts. Let's pivot for a second to another foundational text, the Book of the Heavenly Luminaries, which is a section of the Book of Enoch found in the original Aramaic at Qumran. In 1 Enoch, chapter 80, the text delivers a direct, really raw warning about the end times. It says, "And in the days of the sinners the years shall be shortened, and the moon shall alter her order and not appear at her time, and many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed for them, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks." If you check out this breakdown, it clearly contrasts what the ancient text describes as standard cycles against the prophesied end times alterations. Notice the pattern happening here. Regular years are shortened. The moon leaves its standard orbit and alters its order. And the chief stars move out of their prescribed seasons and literally alter their orbits. The data explicitly states that the end time sign involves the luminaries shifting away from their standard cycles to match a completely different, hidden blueprint. So the crucial point is understanding exactly what these terms mean in an ancient context. Chief stars is actually the ancient literal terminology for planets. So when the text says the chief stars are altering their tasks, it means literal planetary gears. They are shifting out of their normal standard cycles to lock into a brand new, precise configuration. And all of these shifting gears, all of these altered planetary paths, they build tension until they converge on one specific, highly significant number. 17. According to the mathematical claims of the source material, this hidden blueprint reveals itself when the planets, those chief stars, and the moon converge precisely on the 17th day of the third month, specifically right at a Tuesday sunset. And this brilliantly illustrates how the ancient framework ties everything together. When this specific planetary convergence happens, it resets a clock signature that has actually remained completely out of sync for over 2,000 years. It mathematically fits the exact definition of the luminaries resetting to their original birth order. It connects that birthing geometry from Revelation right back to Enoch's shifting planetary alignments. It's like a giant puzzle snapping into place.
Section 4. The final target destination, the Olivet Discourse.
To see the final piece of this investigation, we have to look at the Gospels. When the writers of the Olivet Discourse in Luke and Matthew were recording the answer to questions about the end of the age, they didn't just record metaphors. They recorded a specific, literal command to watch the celestial canopy for these geometric signs.
The verse in Luke 21 reads, "And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars. When these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh." Based on the source material, this is presented impartially as the ultimate, indisputable alarm clock. The huge takeaway here is that the text absolutely does not say the planets are witnesses down on the ground. Instead, the geometric positions of the sun, moon, and stars act as a visible alarm clock up in the sky. They are the indicators that the prophetic timeline has finally hit its target destination. To quickly summarize the supplementary context of the investigation here, this isn't just some modern theory being imposed on old texts. The ancient Qumran scribes, the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, they constantly and obsessively tracked sacred time. They viewed any prophesied changes in the solar and lunar orders as massive structural signs. And these celestial alignments actually highlight intense historical conflicts in the ancient world over how to track calendars and mark the end times. Which leaves us with a genuinely fascinating question to ponder. When you walk outside tonight and look up, what are you actually seeing? Is the sky above us just empty, silent space? Or is it an ancient, interlocking structural timepiece waiting for the gears to perfectly align? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking up.